Okay, so remember when the Pixel 3a launched and everyone was bashing it for focusing just on the cameras and still using dated hardware? Well, as it turns out, the device was a success story. Now, Vivo is trying to replicate the same success story just in a slightly cheaper price tag. Now, we all know that the V series is known for photography enthusiasts, and the V17 is the latest one in that series. Now, the company claims that the phone offers exceptionally great camera performance, especially for its price, but does it really? Well, this is Varun from Guiding Tech, and today I'll be doing a camera review of the Vivo V17. Let's get started. Okay, so before we get started, let's talk about the specifications for a bit. Now, you have them on your screen and they are just about what you would expect from a device at this price point. Now, I know a lot of you guys might be asking for a 64 megapixel sensor right now, but the thing is, I personally prefer 48 megapixel one, and the reason for that is something I'll talk at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. Okay, so let's start this thing off by talking about the daylight photography. The 48 megapixel primary shooter manages to click some really nice shots while maintaining an accurate white balance. Now, these shots were taken in cloudy as well as sunny conditions thanks to the weather here, but I'm happy to see the phone keep the colors true to life. Also, by default, thanks to pixel binning, the photos do have a lot of details. However, you can enable the 48 megapixel mode in here along with several other things, for which I would suggest you to watch a tips and tricks video linked down below. Okay, now the rage in smartphones these days is also an ultra-wide sensor, which the V17 definitely packs. Now, apart from offering a different perspective thanks to a wider frame, the ultra-wide sensor is actually quite helpful too. The only issue here is that when you compare the standard photo to an ultra-wide photo, the color reproduction is definitely affected. Now, while there is a lot to talk about, the major thing that you need to focus on is that the photos will be turning a little bit bluish and slightly warmer at the same time, which is a weird combination, but it totally depends on the main subject. For instance, if you're focusing on indoor subjects, the image will be slightly warmer. If you have a lot of clouds in your background, the image will be slightly bluer, and that's pretty much it. Now, moving on, there's a macro lens here as well. Truth be told, I haven't fancied these sensors since most phones just have it to increase the camera count and that's it. Thankfully though, the results produced here are quite good. In fact, I remember when I was reviewing the P30 Pro, that was the time when I was truly introduced and inspired by macro photography. But ever since then, there hasn't been a phone that really, touched me for macro photography. That said, the V17 is doing a commendable job and I really had a lot of fun shooting macro images with this phone. Now, the images aren't super crisp or anything. I mean, they're captured in a resolution of 1200 by 1600, but the details are still there. Clearly, Vivo's post-processing is doing wonders, and I have to say it, if you're into macro photography, this is a great option. Now, there's also a depth sensor in here that makes for some amazing portrait shots. So you can see a side-by-side comparison of the shots in normal mode and portrait mode, and one thing that deserves the most attention is that there is absolutely zero frame cropping. Now, if you're someone who takes a lot of portrait shots, you would definitely know about frame cropping, and it's good to see that the V17 does not do that. Now, the shots in itself are good and the edge detection is mostly on point. However, like most cameras, it does struggle with hair, so there's that. Also, I would have preferred an ever so slighter bokeh to make it look more natural, but then again, you can obviously fine tune it depending on the bokeh effect you choose. Now, while we're on this section, one thing that I want to talk about is that while the camera results in the portrait mode are pretty good, that happens when you're shooting outdoors. Indoors, the camera results are kind of inconsistent. For instance, take a look at this shot. Now, the subject seems to be highlighted in a very weird manner, and it's what most people would call a paintbrush effect. I don't like it, and I'm sure you guys would not either. Now, moving on to selfies, at least the indoor selfie section is fixed. The results produced here have a lot of details thanks to the 32 megapixel sensor here. The biggest test here is the beard test, and the camera does preserve the sharpness even on a 100% crop, which is great. Now, unlike the Pro variant, the V17 only has a single selfie shooter, but the portrait mode works quite well. That said, the bokeh here is still a bit strong and I would have it a little bit tuned down. Now, I click selfies quite often, and when they're really good, they also go up on our Instagram channel, which you should definitely follow. Now, it's not just my face, we also showcase products, but it's mostly my face. Okay, now moving on to video, something super interesting happened and you should take a look. I was testing the cameras while walking around and the footage you can see on your screen just so happens to be super stable. Like seriously. But the only issue here is that this is in 30 FPS. Push the phone to 60 FPS and well, there's absolutely no stability of any sort. Oh, and though the phone does support 4K recording, it's also locked at 30 FPS, so there's that without any stability. Now the color reproduction is mostly good, and apart from a few focusing issues, the videos themselves are decent, but because of all the limitations here, there's not a lot to talk about. So basically, if you're interested into videography, the V17, well, it's not for you. Okay, so now let's travel to the dark side of the moon. I mean, let's just go to the dark side. Let's turn off the lights, whatever. Like, let's just talk about low-light photography. So in terms of low-light photography, the phone manages to produce some really stunning shots. As you can see, the images still have a lot of details and the colors produced are pretty good. However, one thing to point out is that the subjects you've seen so far are all lit. Now in purely dark-lit conditions, there is a tad bit of noise here and there and the images do not have a lot of details. So there's that. That said, the night mode does work well, but obviously it's not as powerful as you see on other flagship devices, so there's that. Okay, so it's clear that I've established that the V17 is a great camera phone apart from its video capabilities, but yeah, it's a great camera phone. But that does not mean I can wholeheartedly recommend it. See, the thing is, I've been using it just as a secondary device only for testing the camera. I am still baffled by the choice of processor in here and I don't think I can use this as a daily driver without having reviewing it obviously. So yeah, don't take my word for it right now. The camera is good and that's all I'm saying about the device right now. I'm not saying that it's a great device, go out and buy it. But yeah, if you just want a good camera device for its price, the V17 is good. Now, another thing that I want to point out is that in all the images that I've showcased out here, I've tried to be as unbiased and as critical as I could be. But on a personal note, I still prefer the results that are coming out of a Pixel device or any Google camera device for that matter. Or basically any device that supports Gcam. Now, the thing is, the V17 does support Gcam, but because it's Vivo, nobody kind of actually has any development on it. Now it has a Snapdragon chipset and you can maybe think of a Gcam port coming anytime soon, but I wouldn't put my money on it. See, the thing is, the target audience does not really care about Google camera and chances are you guys shouldn't either. So yeah, on a personal note, I would have preferred Gcam on this, but it's not there yet. That said, for most of you guys out there, the camera performance as it is should be pretty good. And for that matter, you can definitely go out and buy the V70. Well, that was it. If you liked the video, make sure to get subscribed and notified. Also, if you have any queries or you'd like to see a direct camera comparison of the V17 with any other phone, sound off below. This is Varun from Guiding Tech and I'll see you in the next one.